Okay, so hello and all that sort of thing. What are we having a look at the moment? This 175, Gary as he's affectionately known, decided to have a clutch failure. But as he has a charmed life, he still holds the record of all the bikes of never having failed away from the unit. And this was another example. The clutch began to go soft a couple of 100 yards away from here on the unit just as I was coming back from a bit of laning, and as I pulled up and stopped, I got back on the bike to pull it into the unit, and the clutch came to the lever, the lever came to the bar, and that was it. So basically the clutch failed as it was parked up, so he still managed to do the whole morning laning and then come back and then decided to stop. So in YouTube tradition, I should really name this video "My clutch exploded and I nearly died," shock, horror, or whatever clickbait thing they want to put in there so that thousands upon thousands of people, TikTok video, "My clutch tried to kill me." Right, anyway, let's get this laid down, get that side off and have a look and see why it stopped. Could well be the 150-year-old plates have finally decided to give up. It's not the cable's fine, lever's fine, and the arm looks okay, but then again might have eaten itself on the inside and rounded off to the point where it won't push the clutch. My enunciation's terrible. Right, let's get it off and have a look. Now the clutch itself isn't particularly new or in fantastic condition, but then it's just for this is just a laner. So as you can see, if you look on the leading edge, see the notches? That shows you that the basket's due to be replaced at some point. Now, why did it fail? Actually, very simple in this case. You have an arm that when you pull your clutch lever in, turns that at the bottom. The leading edge of that squeezes the pin, and the pin pushes this. That squeezes the center. That's trying to focus. There you go. That squeezes the center where those 6 bolts are and opens up the clutch. As you can see, we have no center. It's basically pushed it out. There you go. Right. That's what we want out. Then bearings off. Very unprofessional of me doing this on a handheld camera. Right, got one more in there. Go. Any more? Yeah, there's one down in there. See it? Hopefully get all of them. Bet he doesn't go in. Isn't that clever? Right, this is where it gets tricky. Or not particularly tricky, as the case may be. Where on earth's that? There it is. Right. So that, as far as we know, is all of them out. Actually use the camera while I'm filming to check for bearings and stuff. Actually, I've got a bit of swarf and stuff in there. Ordinarily, you would completely strip this clutch just to be on the safe side. We might just blow it out and make certain that everything's clean in there. Little thing I did notice, I was pulling this apart. This is an old case, so that wear on the side there isn't actually from this clutch. This is another case that was dug out from the cover. But if you look closely, you'll see there's been water ingress, and I've just cleaned the top of there. There's a bit of rust on that mating surface, which we'll clean off afterwards, but it could be a little bit of water ingress has mixed with the oil through the seal on the other side of that case. Or what a lot of people forget is when you wash a bike with a hose, or even worse, a pressure washer, they think the gasket's fine because there's no oil dripping out of the bottom. They think if the oil is keeping it in, if the gasket's keeping the oil in, then it's not leaking, not a problem. But if the top isn't absolutely torqued perfectly, or the gasket becomes old and worn, like this one's due for renewal, you see how it's gone flat, that when you wash a bike or even going through rivers allows water to actually get inside, which will then mix with the oil. Not good, but hey ho. So simple fix, we know what that is. Next job then is to go and root in a box and see if I've got another clutch push, and we'll swap that over. I need to clean out this engine, get rid of the muck and stuff, and then bolt it all back together. So come with me on a little journey up into the gods where all the Kawasaki parts hide. Right, let's have a skeet. Pretty certain this is decidedly dodgy. Top of a ladder looking for things whilst trying to film it for you. Something's got to give, hasn't it? Right, let's have a look. Transmissions. Hopefully will be straightforward. Clutch pulls, transmissions. What we got? Oh, look at that. On the end, a clutch push. There you go. Don't need the pin. Well, I suppose that's actually not jammed in there. That's normally what happens. Right, put you in there. Take you out. This is where all the spares for the KDX 175s all live, along with the plastics and various other engines and parts. And then the rest of this is just a mess of all stuff that I need to tidy up. But hey ho. And at some point we need to get all these barrels and shocks done. Right. Let's get this in there. Right, so let's get this cleaned up. You get an idea of how that actually works. Yeah, that does look like swarf at the bottom, doesn't it? It's actually oil. Caught me out a couple of times. I've wiped it twice. There's the arm on the outside. See that? How the gasket is worn there? And that worn gasket will let water through. So I'll change that after. So there, when that moves, as that moves forward, see that arm move across? That arm moves across and that pushes the pin forward. So when the pin is in with the clutch pull, this would obviously be attached to the engine on there, like that. Now when you move that, you'll see it. See how it pops it up? Once it actually is in the right place. You try to do something where everything's moving at exactly the same time and you're trying to do it all with one hand. Right, anyway, that's the point. It moves that pushes that in. That obviously doesn't sit there. It sits in there. And that pin with its washer, keep hold of the washer, sits in there. So that then gets pushed down by the arm, opens up the plates. Once the plates are open, it breaks the traction between them two, and basically this is still spinning, so you can be sitting there revving your bike. This outer is still spinning. This outer is still spinning, but because there's no grip between these plates, the steel and the carbon fibre plates have separated. The centre, which is attached to the input shaft down inside there, isn't spinning. So basically this is moving, that's moving, but the centre's not. As soon as you engage that, that begins to move, and obviously then that one connects to the output shaft, which is on the other side. So you've got an input shaft and an output shaft. The output shaft and your input shaft have got your two sets of gears on. I'm sure there's 1,000 videos out there that can explain all that for you perfectly. But there you go. Right, this all needs cleaning, gasket, and then we'll bolt it back together. Right, I spared you the cleaning and the bolting it back together. Just a little thing while we're bolting it on. Oh, I've gone with the I left that gasket for the moment because this engine needs a rebuild. I've looked at a few different things now, had the chance to have it open, so we'll pull the whole thing in the near future. And after nearly 10 years, my young fella who's on YouTube saying you got to do videos of when you're stripping them down. I do these so often that literally it takes longer to set up and do all this videoing faff than it does to actually pull one of these down to next to nothing, clean everything, put it back together. So but this time when I do this, we'll do a full engine build, well, full engine strip, and that when we'll have a look at all the various bits and pieces. So just one little tip for if you can call it a tip, whenever you put these on, because there's a couple of them that are different lengths. Every bike is slightly different. They all have specifics where they have different lengths on the some of these based on how deep it goes into the cases. But on these, you can go, if you want to sit there and follow talks, that's absolutely bob on. In fact, that's probably the better way to do it. But over the years, I've realized one of the easiest ways is to just nip your socket up to wherever you like, and then pick a point. And then I can only do it with one hand, so I'm not going to actually do them all the way. You just literally, the same as you would in the olden days with a clock face. It's basically put it at vertical, or whatever you want to call it, 180, and literally you just go 5 minutes. You know what I mean? If I do this one here, I'll try and show you the arm. Yeah, so if you set that at the same, when you're doing them, always set them at exactly the same so that you know, or you can feel how far you've gone, and then it's literally do it about 5 minutes. Yeah, and spread the weight. Normally when I do the likes of forks, when you're doing fork bolts, you can actually put them at 6 o'clock, and then you can move them at here. I can put it at 25 past and just move it over to half past. Now I know that one needs a revisit because it went over a little bit quick, so go over the other end to keep the faces flat as it's going down. So there, 20 past, we'll probably go around to about half past. There you go. And then literally we'll just pull all this in. Oop, if we can get to it. There you go. So put that on. It's just in your mind, you know how much you've turned each of them, and then how much each of them needs, and you can feel it, especially on these, because you're basically squeezing magnesium cases against alloy cases, and all you've got is a gasket in between, so there is pointless going nuts with it, because all you're doing is squeezing a gasket and then cracking it. Best way obviously is just get a torque wrench and set it to whatever the specifications are, but it's always good to, if you know how to do it without using the torque wrench, you can allow then for, like this, a worn gasket, or any imperfections that are in it, or if there's any sort of warping in it, you can allow for it. But it's not ideal, you know what I mean? It's the old school way of doing it. But anyway, right, I'll come back to you in a minute. I'll finish nipping all these up so they're all tight, bang the kickstart back on, we'll reattach that clutch, stand her up, and see if she's good to go. Right, that's the case back on, and the kickstart and the brake. And as we're doing little tips as we're going, just in case anybody in the entire world is interested, actually even if they're not, it'll serve as a reminder to me. Right, anytime you've got one of these, the old KDXs, PEs, IT, or basically anything, they would have all had crosshead screws. In fact, I've got one. If we pan up, not that one that you can see, but the one, if I pan up there, I'm not getting up because I'm old and my knees get tired. That one in the corner, the good one as I call her, they've got crosshead bolts on the top of these. First time you ever take them out, use an impact driver so that you don't round them off, and then as soon as you have taken them out, put socket head bolts in. And another little tip I see, because modern bikes don't have these sort of things, is on the brake lever there, where it attaches to the brake rod, because obviously modern bikes have hydraulics and all that sort of guff that no one needs. On the rod, when it comes through, when you put a pin in, don't put it through from the front to the back, because then you can't see that split link that's behind, and if it ever breaks, you don't know till you lose the pin. So, which is annoying, because the pins are really awkward to get hold of after a few millennia. So, but and just a note on that actual bearing push failure, the bit there that we saw before. Yeah, you see, buy cheap, buy twice. That has literally only lasted, I think, about 30 years. What kind of a return on investment is that? 30 years from a couple of quid's bearing. Tell you, what's the world coming to? Yeah, that's about right. That bearing, I think, probably lasted well over 20, maybe 30 years. I mean, this particular 175, we'll have a look when it stood up, is an 81. So yeah, there's 43 years. I nearly said 33 years. That's showing me age. Yeah, 43 years. So, right, let's get her up and see if well, actually I've got to put the clutch cable on first, because it's easier to do by taking it off at the lever and then thread it through here and then put it on. You try doing that while you've got the case attached to it. Yeah, it goes everywhere. So right, back in a sec. Right, so we've fed the cable back through, so we've now got pressure at the cable. Just put some adjustment into that. That clunk is the plates being pulled open. So looks like that's exactly what was wrong with us. So right, I'll come back to you in a sec. 3, 2, 1, we're back in the room. Now, muggins here will be a bit smoky, but we have a clutch. Well, we hope we have a clutch now that we've put that back in. So, let's see. To get some fuel through first, because obviously lying it on its side we got rid of all the fuel. That's sorted. Right. Get back out on the trails.